was 26, pregnant, and my husband just died. Then I found out his whole life was a lie. This is my true story. Before we continue, please subscribe, like, and share this video to support more powerful African stories like this. Thank you so much. My people, gather round. Pull up a chair, sit on the floor, or just lean against the wall, because the story I am about to tell you is not a story from a book. It is the story of my life. My name is Chinasa Ifeanyi. I am a woman from Anambra State, in the eastern part of Nigeria. Today, I am 26 years old, but if you look at my heart, you will see scars that look like they belong to a woman of 80. Have you ever felt like the world was smiling at you, only to realize the world was actually laughing at your foolishness? That was me. It happened on a very quiet Sunday afternoon. You know those Sundays where the air is still. The sun was beating down on the red earth of the church compound. Service had just ended. Women were tied in their best wrappers, talking about the sermon. Children were running, dusty and happy. I was inside the church, slowly putting my Bible and my hymn book into my bag. Felt peaceful. I didn't know that outside that church door, a trap had been set for me. My phone started vibrating. Izzy, Bizzy. I looked at the screen. It was Sister Uche. Now listen carefully. In our church, Sister Uche was like a small god. She was bold. She was loud. When she spoke, people listened. She was the one who arranged marriages for all the young girls. I picked up the call with respect. "Hello, Sister Uche," I said. Her voice came out strong like a trumpet. "Chinasa, my daughter, I've been looking for you. Don't leave the compound yet. There is a young man. His name is Sunday. I want you to marry him." My heart jumped into my throat. Marry. Just like that. I was 26 then, and yes, I wanted to settle down, but the way she said it made me shiver. Little did I know that phone call was the beginning of my funeral while I was still alive. "Sister Uche. What do you mean?" I asked, my voice shaking. She laughed, that loud, confident laugh that makes you feel like you don't know anything. "Chinasa, stop being a child. Sunday is a good man. He is hardworking. He is quiet. He needs a wife who is respectful, and I told him you are the one. You come from a good home, even though your parents are gone. I trust you." I felt a mixture of fear and pride. To be trusted by someone like Sister Uche was a big deal. But marriage? To a man I had never seen. I asked her, "Ma, why me? Why Sunday?" She told me it was because I wasn't stubborn like the other girls in the city. My people, let me tell you something. When people praise you for not being stubborn, sometimes they are praising you for being easy to cheat. That evening I went to her house. I wore a simple gown. I didn't want to look like I was begging for a husband, but I didn't want to look like a bush girl either. I prayed a short prayer. "God, if this man is not for me, let him not like me." But it seemed the heavens were silent that day. When I got there, Sunday was already sitting. He was tall. He was dark. He looked very calm. But when he opened his mouth, it wasn't love that came out. It was a job interview. "What is your qualification?" he asked. Not, "How are you?" Not, "You look beautiful." Just, "What can you do for me?" I should have stood up and walked out right then. But I stayed. I stayed because I wanted to be a good girl. Sunday told me he was into importation. In Nigeria, when a man says he is into importation, we think he is a millionaire. He talked about containers. He talked about the port in Lagos. He talked about how he needed a woman who could manage a big house. I sat there listening like a fool. He asked me if I could cook, if I could clean, and if I would be submissive. I said yes to everything. I looked at him and asked, "What about you? What kind of husband will you be?" He looked shocked. It was like he didn't expect the property to talk back. He cleared his throat and said, "I am a provider. I do business." He was studying me like a hunter studies a bird. My spirit was not settled. Have you ever been in a room where everything looks fine, but your soul is screaming, "Run"? That was me. But then Sister Uche came back into the room smiling. "You two look so good together," she shouted. My senior brother came into the picture too. He was the only man left in my family since our parents died when I was 18. He told me, "Chinasa, let me go and check this man's family." I felt a bit of relief. My brother would protect me. Or so I thought. But 2 days later, Sunday invited me to his house in Lagos. He showed me a beautiful car. He showed me a nice apartment. I thought maybe God has finally remembered the orphan. A month later, my life turned upside down. I woke up feeling sick. My stomach was turning. I checked the calendar. My period was late. My heart stopped. I was a child of God. I was a chorister. How could I tell my brother I was pregnant for a man I wasn't married to? I was crying in my room when I called Sunday. I expected him to shout. I expected him to tell me to go away. But he sounded so happy. "Chinasa, this is great news. In my family we don't give birth without marriage. We must go to the village immediately. We must do the traditional wedding now." I felt like a weight had been lifted. He is a responsible man, I told myself. He wants to cover my shame. We rushed to the village. Everything happened so fast. My brother didn't even finish his investigation. The drums were beaten. The palm wine was poured. I became Mrs. Sunday. I thought I was entering my happy ending. I didn't know I was walking into a prison where the wardens were my own in-laws. We moved to Lagos. And that was when the mask Sunday was wearing began to peel off. The first week in Lagos was okay. But by the second week I noticed something strange. Every morning I would wake up at 5 a.m. I would sweep, I would cook, I would get ready to go to the market to start my own little hustle. But Sunday would be under the duvet, snoring. 8 a.m. snoring. 10 a.m. snoring. I asked him, "Honey, don't you have to go to the shop? Don't you have to see your containers at the port?" He would turn over and growl, "Chinasa, don't disturb me. Business is done on the phone. You don't understand the life of a big man." Then the phone calls started. If the phone rang, he would jump out of bed like the mattress was on fire. He would run to the balcony and lock the door. He would speak in low tones, whispering, looking over his shoulder. If I came near, he would hang up. One day I tried to ask him, "Who was that? Why are you hiding?" He turned and looked at me with eyes I didn't recognize. "You are asking too many questions. Is it because I married you? Do you want to monitor my life?" The man who was calm in the village was becoming a tiger in Lagos. And I was trapped in the cage with him. My people, they say that a woman is the neck that turns the head. But what do you do when the head is leaden and heavy? By my 3rd month of marriage, I was the one providing the food. My little business was what we were eating. One evening, Sunday came home and his face was very dark. He didn't eat. He just sat on the sofa, sighing like the weight of the world was on him. He called me, "Chinasa, my wife. You know I love you. You know everything I am doing is for our unborn child." I nodded, my heart softening. He then held my hands and his palms were sweating. "There is a container at the port. My partners are trying to cheat me. I need 800,000 naira to clear it today, or we lose everything. Please, I know you have been saving. Give me your ATM. I will pay you back double next week." I hesitated. That money was my sweat. It was the money I saved since before I met him. But he started crying. A whole man crying. He said if I didn't help him, his family would laugh at him. Because I didn't want my husband to be shamed, I gave him the card. I gave him the PIN. By the next morning my phone was buzzing with alert. Debit, debit, debit. My account was empty. My people, that next week he promised never came. It was the last time I saw that money. One afternoon, a man came to our house. He was looking very angry. He was shouting, "Where is Sunday? Where is the car?" I came out holding my pregnant belly. "My husband is not around. What happened?" The man laughed, but it was a wicked laugh. "Your husband? You mean that thief? This car he has been driving, it belongs to my brother in London. He was supposed to sell it and send the money. Instead, he has been using it to pose as a big man. My legs turned to water. I looked at the car in the driveway, the car that made my brother think Sunday was rich. It wasn't ours. The house was rented with borrowed money. The clothes he wore were bought on credit. My husband was a ghost, living a life that didn't exist. When Sunday came back and I confronted him, he didn't apologize. He slapped me. "How dare you listen to strangers? They are just jealous of our success." That was the first time he hit me. The sting on my cheek was nothing compared to the sting in my heart. 9 months came. I gave birth to my beautiful daughter Adaeze. I thought maybe the sight of his own blood would change him. For a few days he was kind. But the hunger in the house was real. There was no money for baby food. There was no money for diapers. I would look at Adaeze and cry, "My daughter, I am sorry I brought you into this house of lies." I started going to the market again, just 2 weeks after giving birth. I would tie my stomach with a strong wrapper to keep the pain away and carry heavy loads just to buy a tin of milk. Sunday was still sleeping. Sunday was still hiding to take calls. He had become a stranger who happened to sleep on the same bed as me. The pain was too much for me to bear. I could not keep it inside anymore. So I carried my daughter and went to my senior brother's house. I believed he would understand me. I believed he would protect me. After all, he was now the head of the family since our parents were gone. When I reached there, I explained everything. I told him how Sunday lied to me, how he collected my money, how he was not doing any real business, how I was suffering silently. Then I said the words that were heavy in my heart. "Brother, I want to leave this marriage." Immediately my brother stood up. His face changed. He started shouting, "Chinasa, are you stupid?" My heart jumped. He continued shouting, "Do you want to bring a bad name to our family? People will laugh at us. You are already married. You will stay there." I tried to talk, but he did not let me speak. "You will remain with your husband. That is my final word." Final word. Just like that. No comfort. No understanding. No protection. I stood there shaking. Tears were running down my face. I looked at my daughter, picked her up, and without saying another word, I left his house. That day I understood something. The people you think will save you are the same people who push you back into the fire. I told myself, no more. I told Sunday I was done. No more money, no more husband duties, until he told me the truth about his life. I started sleeping on the floor with Adaeze. I was tired of the lies. I was tired of the beatings. But one night, Sunday came home smelling of local gin. He dragged me from the floor. Cried, I begged. I told him I was still healing from the birth of Adaeze. He didn't care. He said, "I paid your bride price. I own you." He forced himself on me while our daughter was crying in the corner. I felt like a piece of meat. That night, I prayed to God to take my life. But instead of death, God sent another life. I became pregnant with Chinedu. I cried until my voice went hoarse. I felt like I was drowning in a deep, black well. Life has a way of stopping you when you don't know how to stop yourself. It was a Saturday. Sunday had traveled with 3 of his family members to Lagos for Sister Ngozi's husband's burial. I was 7 months pregnant with Chinedu sit in our small room, wondering how I would feed Adaeze go that night. Then the phone rang. It wasn't Sister Uche. It was a stranger. "Is this Sunday's wife? There has been an accident on the Lagos-Ibadan Express. A trailer lost control." My heart stopped. The stranger continued. 3 people are in the hospital. But the man named Sunday, he didn't make it. He died instantly. I dropped the phone. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just sat there. My husband was gone. The liar was gone. The man who broke me was gone. But why did I feel like the roof was falling on my head? Before Sunday's body was even cold in the mortuary, his brothers arrived at my door. I thought they came to hold me and tell me, "Chinasa, sorry for your loss." But no. The first thing Sunday's junior brother did was to look around the room. He didn't look at my crying daughter Adaeze. He didn't look at my 7-month-old pregnancy. "Where is Sunday's phone?" he barked. I was confused. "The phone? I don't know, maybe it's in the car." They pushed me aside and started searching my drawers. They took his phone, his watch, and even the spare key to that car that didn't even belong to him. They were looking for money. They thought he had millions hidden because of the lies he told them. When they found nothing, they turned their anger on me. "Ooh, you have hidden his money. You must tell us where he kept the millions." I had to travel to the village for the burial. Imagine me, 7 months pregnant, carrying a toddler, sitting in a crowded bus for hours. My heart was heavy and my body was failing. When we reached the village in Anambra, nobody welcomed me with water. Nobody said, "Sit down and rest." My mother-in-law, a woman I thought was a mother, looked at me and spat on the ground. "Young widow," she called me. But the way she said it sounded like a curse. They made me sit on the floor. They said because I was the wife of a man who died young, I must have a hand in it. My people, in our land, when a man dies, the woman is always the first suspect. I cried until my eyes were swollen shut, but the only person who heard me was the baby kicking in my womb. The 1 month I spent in the village was a living hell. My mother-in-law was a bitter woman. She would cook food for the whole family and leave me out. If I wanted to eat, I had to go to the back of the house and find firewood to cook for myself. Me, a pregnant woman. One day, I was so hungry I felt I would faint. I begged her for a little bit of the rice she was eating. She looked at me and said, "If you are hungry, go and call your dead husband to provide for you. You ate all his money in Lagos. Now you want to eat mine." I went behind the hut and ate raw palm kernels just to stay alive. I was a widow, but to them I was just a beggar who brought bad luck to their son. After the burial, I knew I couldn't stay in the village. If I stayed, I or my unborn baby would die of hunger. I went to Sunday's father. I knelt on the sharp stones. "Papa, please. Let me go back to Lagos. I have nothing here." The family gathered. They talked for hours like I wasn't there. Finally, the father reached into his pocket and pulled out some squeezed notes. 50,000 naira. That was all. "Take this," he said. "This is all we have for you. Don't come back here asking for anything else." 50,000 naira for a widow with 1 child and another on the way. I took it with shaking hands. It wasn't even enough for the bus fare and 1 month's rent, but it was my ticket out of that cage. Returning to Lagos was like entering a new country where I didn't speak the language. The room we lived in was empty. The landlord was already threatening to throw my things out because the rent was overdue. I sat on the floor and looked at Adaeze. She was thin. Her ribs were showing. I started calling the people I thought were my friends. I called Sister Uche, the woman who arranged the marriage. Do you know what she said? "Chinasa, it is a pity. But I am busy with church work. Pray to God, He will provide." She hung up. The person who led me into the fire was now too busy to help me put it out. I realized that day that in this world, if you don't stand up for yourself, you will rot where you fell. In my desperation, I remembered Emeka. He was Sunday's closest friend. He used to come to our house to eat. He knew the truth about Sunday's lies. Called him crying. "Emeka, please. My daughter is starving. My rent is due. Anything you can do to help me." Emeka was silent for a moment. Then his voice changed. It became oily and dark. "Chinasa, you are a beautiful woman. Why are you suffering? If you can be friendly with me, if you can let me come to your house whenever I want, I will pay your rent. I will buy food for Adaeze. I will even give you money for the new baby." My blood went cold. He wanted to buy my body with a bag of rice. I looked at my stomach, I looked at my daughter, and I felt a fire in my bones. "Emeka," I said, "I may be a widow, but I am not a commodity. If hunger wants to kill me, let it kill me, but I will go to my grave with my dignity." I blocked his number and never looked back. The day Chinedu wanted to come, I was alone. There was no husband to hold my hand. No mother to boil hot water. I was in that small face-me room. The pain started at midnight. I had to crawl to the neighbor's door, knocking with the last strength I had. That night, in a cheap local clinic that smelled of bleach and old blood, my son Chinedu was born. When the nurse handed him to me, I didn't smile. Cried. I cried because he looked exactly like Sunday. I cried because I didn't know how I would buy the soap to wash his skin. But when he held my finger with his tiny hand, I felt a new kind of strength. I whispered to him, "Chinedu, I will not let the world swallow you. I will be your father and your mother." When Chinedu was 2 weeks old, I called my senior brother one last time. I thought surely now that there are 2 children he will help. I begged him for just 10,000 naira to buy medicine for the baby. My brother's voice was as cold as ice. "Chinasa, I have told you. I have my own children to feed. You decided to stay in Lagos instead of going to the village to serve the family. Since you are a big girl in Lagos, find your own way. And by the way, if you change your mind and decide to go live in the village, I will give you 40,000 naira for your transport." I dropped the phone. That was the day I realized the only person I could truly rely on in this world was me. I stopped being just a sister. I stopped being a victim. Became a lioness. As soon as I could walk properly, I tied Chinedu to my back. I took Adaeze by the hand. We went to the local restaurant near the garage. I told the owner, "I don't want a salary. Just let me wash the plates. Give me the leftovers at the end of the day, and let my children sit in the corner." My people, have you ever washed 1,000 plates in one day? My fingernails started to peel. My back felt like it was breaking. People would walk past and look at me with pity, and some with disgust. "See that young girl wasting her life," they would whisper. They didn't know I was a widow. All they saw was a woman covered in soapsuds and palm oil. But every evening when I walked home with a small nylon of rice for Chinedu, I felt like a queen. That one room became our world. We had no bed, just a thin mat on the floor. We had no stove, just a small kerosene burner that smoked. But in that room there were no lies. There were no beatings. There were no secret phone calls. I would sit the children down and tell them stories about their grandparents. I wouldn't tell them their father was a liar. I just told them he was away. I worked 3 jobs. I washed clothes for neighbors. I swept the market stalls before the sun came up. I saved every 50 naira note like it was a gold coin. I was suffering, no be small, but my children were breathing. We were alive. As the years passed, my body became a map of hard work. My skin was dark from the Lagos sun, and my palms were as hard as the stones I used to scrub the pots. But I didn't care. Every time I looked at Adaeze and Chinedu, I saw my why. I remember one day Chinedu asked me, "Mummy, why don't you ever buy new clothes for Christmas?" I laughed and pulled him close. I told him, "My son, your school uniform is my Christmas cloth. Your sister's books are my jewelry." I made a vow that my children would never be qualifications for a man to interview. They would be the ones giving the interviews. I worked until my bones ached, but I ensured that not one day did they go to bed without a drop of water or a grain of rice. The day Adaeze was old enough for secondary school, I took her to the government school. In Lagos, the education is free, but you still have to buy uniforms, bags, and shoes. I had saved for 3 years for that day. When I saw her in that white and blue uniform, I started to cry in the middle of the street. People were looking at me like I was mad. I wasn't mad, I was grateful. I looked up at the sky and said, "Sunday, wherever you are, look at the daughter you left in the cold. She is going to be a doctor. She is going to be everything you were too small to be." Time is a mystery. One day I am washing plates for 200 naira, and the next day I am standing tall, watching my children grow like cedars. Today, as I tell you this, my Adaeze is going to be 14 years old by the end of this year. She is tall, beautiful, and so brilliant. My Chinedu is 12, and he has just entered secondary school too. When people see us on the street, They don't see the widow who ate palm kernels. They see a woman and her children. They don't know that the foundation of our lives was built with the tears I cried in that one-room apartment. We are still in Lagos, but we are no longer suffering. We are surviving and we are thriving. Sometimes I wonder if my senior brother or my mother-in-law ever thinks about us. Do they know that the disgrace they feared never came? Do they know that the woman they gave 50,000 naira to die in the street is now a business owner? I don't have bitterness for them anymore. Bitterness is a poison you drink while waiting for your enemy to die. I have forgiven them, not because they asked for it, but because my heart is too full of my children's laughter to hold on to their hate. If they see me today, they will see that the God of the orphan does not sleep. My friends, my brothers, and my sisters, thank you for listening to my true life story. This channel you are watching is my own. I started it to show the world that your beginning does not have to be your end. Lessons. Never let a man, a woman, or a family define your worth. If I had listened to Emeka and sold my body, where would I be today? If I had listened to my brother and stayed in the village to be a slave, what would have happened to Chinedu? Trust your hands. Trust your God. And never, ever let the lies of a man bury the truth of who you are. I am Chinasa Ifeanyi, and I am still standing.